Listen to the birds awakening the day. I love the rising of the sun and glow of
Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Revitalize Hope. My name is Reggie with R&B Gene, and today, before we get started, please hit the subscribe button down below and leave a comment, thumbs up, thumbs down. I would love to hear from you. And if you have any ideas or topics that you would like to talk about, please feel free to share them. And also, if you're joining us on our webpage at rmbigene.com, thank you for joining us as well. Please make sure that you click through, subscribe to our newsletter, and check out some of the other stuff that we do, our music, our other motivational speeches, and let me know what you think. Well, today's topic is, I was trying to think about something that I have done in the past, which was when I was a director and I was interviewing people. And I was really astonished at some of the simplest mistakes that people were making, coming to a job interview. Now, there was some job interviews that was pretty good, but then there was some things that was like, wow, this person just could have fine-tuned this. Because one thing you have to remember is when you're applying for a job and you're going to the interview, anything that's kind of wrong or offsetting may make the interviewer feel like, okay, there's something not right, there's something suspicious, this person is lying, they're not being upfront, maybe I don't even want to deal with it, they're not a good fit. So you want to try to eliminate that as much as possible and have them focus on your accomplishments, have them focus on your skill sets. So the first thing I want to talk about is, and some of this stuff is going to sound really simple, but you're going to be really surprised that this actually happens. And I'm telling you, this is from my experience of interviewing hundreds of people. And these are some of the most common mistakes that people actually came into the interview with. To start off with, the resume, really simple, the email address. If you have an email address that you use for fun or personal stuff, it may be something like Hot Sexy 78 or I Rock, or Big Dude on Campus, Pimp Daddy, whatever your email address is. If it's anything like that, then you need not to use it. It doesn't look good. I understand it's your personal email address, but you're applying for a job, and normally if your email address is saying something like that, it's going to kind of send a negative effect to the interviewer. So what I recommend is try to use your name. Try to use your name as your email address. Now, I know sometimes you got a common name. A lot of people may have it. So you may have say if your name is Thomas Johnson. There's probably a lot of Thomas Johnsons. So you might be Thomas Johnson 11 or Thomas Johnson 12. That is fine. But that email address needs to be something that's professional. So I highly recommend you use your name, even if you have to add like a number sign or numbers after it, or a dash, then a number, something, but make it professional. Use your name as your email address. Also, what I recommend is when you set up your email address to put on your resume, only use it for job interviews. And the reason I say this, because when you are using different email addresses or you got using your personal email address, all this stuff is coming in there and you might miss something. So by having an email address that's only set up for interviews, for people to contact you about jobs, everything is going to one central point. So therefore, you have a better chance of catching it, and just make sure that you track that email. You track what's coming in, your incoming messages. The next thing is typos. You gotta read your resume over and make sure that you eliminate any typing errors, because you don't want that in there. That includes your cover letter. If you're going to have a cover letter, you put in the name of the company in there. You don't want to misspell the company's name or the person who, if you know who you're interviewing with, you don't want to misspell their name. And you definitely don't want misprints in your resume. So definitely spell check. Have somebody else check it over for you. But try to eliminate the typos as much as possible. This one is huge. Address and phone number. And now, When it comes to the email address, and phone number, this is common when a person is maybe moving or trying to get situated, or maybe they're using a resume that's old and they might update the address but not the phone number. You want to make sure that that is current and it represents where you are now. Because what happens is, let's say you're applying for a job in Georgia, but you live in North Carolina and you drove down for the interview, but you have a Georgia address. When they start talking to you about Georgia, you don't want to have to backtrack and say, well, that's where I'm going to be staying. I'm in North Carolina now. It's going to kind of throw them off. So you need to be upfront with your address. If you're in North Carolina, just say, yes, I'm in North Carolina, but I'm moving down here next week. I have a place. I have the address. But, you just want to be upfront. And I get it, because sometimes what happens is you want them to feel like you're local, so they don't have to deal with the whole out-of-state thing. But here's what happens. If you're waiting to get the job, you're talking to all these different companies, because you might be talking to places in North Carolina and talking to places in Georgia. But one of the mistakes that what's going to happen is, if you get offered the job in Georgia, now you're telling them, hey, is it possible I can have, more than 2 weeks before I start, because I have to transition from North Carolina to Georgia? And they're saying, well, I thought you was in Georgia. So you don't want to get caught lying. Be honest. Make sure your address is up to date. If you do have an address in Georgia and you're living in Georgia, fine. If you are going to use a Georgia address, but you're living from another state, but you're applying for a job somewhere else, you need to be ready you need to be prepared to make that transition within an appropriate timeline, because you don't want to tell a company you're living somewhere on a resume, but your actual address is out of state. That could cause a problem. So you want to be upfront. And honestly, if you're a good candidate and you're a good interviewer, they will hire you as long as you know that you are coming. So don't do that. And phone number is another big thing. Make sure your phone number is updated, because you don't want to go for an interview and you did one number on your application, but your resume has another phone number. So when they go to call you, they're going by the resume because they're thinking the resume is updated, or somebody else is calling you and they can't reach you because the number is disconnected. Make sure your phone number is updated on your resume and it matches your application. Here we go. Now, when you get to the interview, here's another thing that I saw with a lot of people. Too comfortable. People walked in the office too comfortable. You got to remember, this is an interview. You're applying for a job. I had people walk in like, hey, what's up, bro? How you doing, man? Everything good? You're applying for a job interview. I'm looking for a professional person. I'm not looking for a buddy or a homeboy off the street. I'm looking for a professional person that's come in to perform a paid task. So when you go into a job interview, you need to be professional. You need to keep it simple. Good afternoon, sir. Good morning, ma'am. Shake their hand. No fist bumps. None of that stuff. Good morning. Good afternoon. Hello, my name is Reggie Maddox. Thank you for taking the time to speak with me today. You want to keep it professional. Don't get comfortable. Don't lay back. Don't get the lean in and all this type stuff. Sit up straight, good posture. You want to keep that. Very good posture. And of course, we all know clothing. Make sure you dress appropriate. For men, a tie, nice shirt, slacks, dress shoes. For women, you can wear a dress. I recommend that the dress comes past the knees, or if you wear pantsuit, that's fine as well. Don't wear anything low cut. Dress professional. I don't have to tell people that. You should know what dressing professional is. The other thing is, like I said, don't be too comfortable. Don't get too comfortable, because if you do, they're gonna feel like, it was fun. You had a little humor and jokes to you, but I don't think that's what I really want to go with. The next thing is research. Research the company that you are going to work for, because you will be surprised how many people go to jobs and do not research the company. and they ask you, you know anything about our company, or have you had a chance to look it over? You want to be honest. Go to their website, read up on them, read up about some of the things. And what I recommend is, most companies now have a department web page. If you're applying for IT, if you're applying for security, if you're applying for grounds or building service, there's always something on the website that might tell you a little bit about that area. So what I recommend is read about that area, read about what they do, read about what they're offering. Go back and read the job description. Get familiar with what the company is wanting and understand what the company is about. That will help you come up with an answer to questions like, what can you bring to this company? How can you contribute to us? What are your skill sets that best fits us? Because if you know what skill sets they're looking for and you understand what the company is about, you can actually figure out how you can benefit that company. So do your research on the company. Understand who the president is, where they started from, where they're trying to go. If they got a vision or mission, get familiar with it. Understand the company and know who you are working for. That is so important. I can't believe how many people just totally do not do that. Anytime I apply for a job, I looked up the company. I researched them. I looked up about them. And I don't mean you got to do a whole thesis about them, but basically you want to get familiar with the company as far as who's the CEO, what their mission is, what their goals are, who's their clientele. You want to look at what's driving them. Read the sales and marketing that they're doing so you understand what this company is trying to do. Now, the next thing is not knowing what job you're applying for. And I totally get this one. And some people are saying, well, how do you not know what job you're applying for? Because a lot of people apply for so many jobs. They do, because right now we all understand it's very difficult to get a job. And people are applying for so many jobs that you got all these companies calling, and sometimes the company will call and say, hey, I'm from this company, da, 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 da. If you apply for 100 companies, you might be kind of like, okay, so who was this company? Wait a minute, what was the position? So that's why having that email will help, because now you can go back and look and say, okay, I sent something to this company, to that company. And even if you do like a little to-do list, just have a job list, and you can do it on a computer. Apply for this job. This is the name of the company. This is the position. So when they call you, you can actually go back and say, oh, this was the company. This is what it was about. So knowing that is important, because I've actually had people who have come for an interview and actually sat in front of me and said, so what's the position? What is this job? What's the position? And I'm thinking, like, if you don't have the respect and courtesy to research or even try to remember what job you're applying for, especially if you're drawing on the property, you come into the office, you sit down in front of me, and in no time you were able to find out why you applied for this job, especially when most job interviews are set up 3 to 4 days, even a week in advance, and you couldn't remember why you applied for the job or what job it is. Come on now. That right there was an automatic, okay, this is not going to work. So when you're applying for a job, make sure you're being your best. Make sure you're knowledgeable about the company. Make sure you're verifying your address. You're looking for grammatical errors, typos. Make sure your name, your phone number. And the last thing I want to say is be familiar with your resume. Be very familiar with your resume. What really impressed me is about a person who, if I'm reading their resume and I'm asking them questions about their resume, they can look at me eye to eye and tell me their start date, their end date, the job description, job, skills. When they have to pull their resume out too, so wait a minute, I worked, yeah. Be familiar with your resume, because that's a sign of confidence. And it's not overconfidence. It shows that you are You know who you are, your background. So you can look to me and we can talk about it. And I don't have to feel like you just made your resume up 20 minutes ago just to bring it into the office. Or you just had it typed up by somebody, apply for the job, and this is your first time looking at it too. So be familiar with your resume and be honest on your resume. Because if you're familiar with the details and what you put on your resume, it makes for a better conversation. Because you're going to, like I said, you're going to come across as more confident. It's going to be more of a positive interaction. So you got to remember to do those things. Now, there are other things you need to consider, which I shouldn't have to tell you. I mean, you guys know, make sure that you're on time. You know, if somebody's driving you to your interview, have them wait in the car, have them go wait somewhere else, but don't bring them into the interview with you. And I understand if you got kids sometimes, do your best to try to find a babysitter or even a daycare that can take them for a couple of hours, or a friend or something that can watch and help out. But don't take anybody to the interview with you. Go to the interview by yourself. Be at least 15 minutes early. Anything other than that, you're late. 15 minutes early at the interview. Be courteous to everybody you meet when you walk inside that building for that interview. And I'm going to tell you right now, you never know. Because you might pass by a housekeeper, you might pass that secretary. You never know the relationship that that person has with the person that you're interviewing. Because you'll be surprised that a lot of these housekeepers, a lot of these, it could be a cook, it could be a security guard, they have worked there for quite some time. And if you come in there being a jerk and having an attitude, and it gets back to the person that's interviewing you, they might see him high, because like if I'm the CEO and I'm walking out and I'm asking my security guy like, hey, how's your day? And he's kind of like, oh, everything okay? Yo, just had this one lady come in that was just really nasty. And once they get to talking, and basically, long story short, if they relay a message back to the person that's interviewing that you were the one that was being nasty, you were the one that had the attitude, you was being pushy, then you know what? They're going to feel you're not a good fit. They're going to feel like you're a conflict, that you are a confrontational person. You're not patient. You're not going to have good customer service. So you want to make sure that you are nice and polite to everybody you meet. And for your resume, have your resume and your cover letter, if you got a cover letter, put it inside a portfolio, or just go to Walmart, buy one of those little 30-cent folders and put it inside there, because you want to be nice and neat. You don't want to be unfolding it, pulling it out your purse. You don't want to have it in your hand when it's all sweaty. You just want to hand it and give it straight to them. All right. So I hope this helps you, and I really hope that, I know jobs are tough right now, but hang in there, do the best you can, keep working for it. Something will come up. I know it takes time, but do your best to polish yourself, polish your resume, polish your interviewing skills. Sit down. Go online and just look up interviews, and even ask a friend to interview you, somebody who can really take it serious and interview you, and just look up interview questions for the job you're applying for. You can find it online, and just think about those questions. Think about the answers you would give based on you researching the company and the job description, remember? But hey, don't give up. Keep hope going. Keep the faith. God is going to bless you. It's going to come through for you. Hey, this is Reggie with RM Viaging, and thank you for joining me right here on Revitalize Hope. And don't forget, revitalize hope in yourself and somebody else. I'll see you next time.
As a friend, I'm here for you. Here I stand with you, wishing you the best in all you do. Always look for the breeze of love, calm and gentle from above. No, no, no. Yeah. Ooh, yeah, yeah. Now I know some days you may feel blue, Lord. Trust in your greatness to see you through. Don't look back, it's not the end. Give life your best, and I know you can win. You see, As a friend, I'm here for you. You should know that. As a friend, I'm here for you. Here I stand with you, wishing you the best in all you do. Always look for the breeze of love, the breeze of love. Here I stand with you, wishing you the best in all you do.